Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Westminster, I welcome you to our Veterans Day program. Mr. Charles McEwen, Chaplain of Westminster Veterans Corps and Air Force veteran, will now give the invocation. Mr. McEwen.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, as we gather on this Veterans Day, we remember the men and women that have served and are still serving our country around the world. We especially ask that your love and care be with the family members of our Westminster veterans who have passed away during this last year. We especially ask that you will grant them comfort as they grieve the loss of their loved one. We ask for your care for our veterans deployed around the world in trouble spots all over. But we especially remember those men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice to help preserve the freedom we enjoy as a nation. While today is set aside to honor our many veterans, we should not forget the families, these service people left behind, and especially the families whose loved ones never returned. We continue to ask you to watch over our military members and keep them from harm's way. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Will you all please rise for the national anthem led by the Red Dog Trio?
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. In the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Welcome to today's ceremony and thank you for attending. I'm honored to be here with you today on such an important occasion. We're here today to honor our veterans and to remember the sacrifices they have made and the courage it takes to defend honor, duty, and country. We are here today to honor our heroes, to show our gratitude, and to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, and to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who are in our midst today and those that are here only in spirit, a person cannot help but feel overwhelmed by the enormity of what we encounter. We stand in the midst of patriots and the family and friends of those who have nobly served all of us. The veterans we honor today came from all walks of life, but they shared several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty, and integrity. All the qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. As we remember those who serve and have served our country, I wanted to find something that tells us a little about the motivation behind the sacrifices made by our military men and women. I found it in a speech given by Ronald Reagan at his first inaugural address. President Reagan tells the story of Private Martin Treptow, a barber who enlisted with the Iowa National Guard and became a part of the 168th Infantry of the 42nd Division, the famous Rainbow Division during World War I. Treptow was killed during the war while delivering a message between battalions. Martin's diary was found on his body, and on the flyleaf under the heading, "My Pledge," he wrote these words: "America must win this war. Therefore I will work, I will save, I will sacrifice, I will endure, I will fight cheerfully, and do my utmost as if the issue of the whole struggle depended on me alone. If you're a veteran, you stand watch over the memory of great events and of brave young Americans. You're a witness to what was gained in our wars and what was lost. You carry the fine traditions and values of our military, and you share them by example. You have a special place in the life of America and in the history of humanity, and we, as all Americans, are proud of you. Millions of Americans have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and way of life. Today our troops continue to make the ultimate sacrifice, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward to say, I am ready to serve. They follow in the footsteps of generations of great Americans. It's a great day to be an American. It's a great day to be a veteran. And I feel privileged and proud to celebrate you, our veterans. The term veteran conveys more than a rank held in the past. Military service forms priorities and commitments that last for a lifetime. Every person who has put on the uniform, whether in time of war or in time of peace, has also felt a new sense of responsibility. Dwight Eisenhower once recalled the day he began his military career. The feeling came over me, he said, that the expression, the United States of America, would now and henceforth mean something different than it had before. From here on, it would be the nation I would be serving and not myself. Long after their honorable service and discharge, our veterans still symbolize what it means to be a citizen. Go to any community in this country, and you will find veterans in positions of service and leadership. In so many ways, veterans live out the meaning of patriotism, idealism, and service to others. Those of us who are children and grandchildren of veterans have seen those qualities up close. Each of us is better because of the influence of a veteran. And so is America. Every veteran once stood ready to give all for our country, and they know that a true soldier never welcomes war. Over the generations, Americans in uniform have defended this nation without seeking to dominate any other nation. American troops do not come as conquerors, but as liberators. Free nations all over the world are in debt to the long, distinguished line of American veterans and all Americans who owe our veterans our liberty. On this Veterans Day, we honor veterans and we honor their families, and we offer the thanks of a grateful nation. We would now like to recognize each branch of the military. Please stand as your service branch is mentioned. Will those who have served the U.S. Air Force please stand and be recognized? Will those who have served in the U.S. Army please stand and be recognized? Will those who have served in the U.S. Marine Corps please stand and be recognized? Will those who have served in the U.S. Navy please stand and be recognized? Will those who have served in the U.S. Coast Guard please stand and be recognized? Well, let's recognize them anyway. Thank you for your service. Thank you for answering the call to duty. You have made our armed forces the most respected in the world. I now invite the Red Dog Trio to share with us a medley of service songs.
And off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, soon to be our thunder animals. Give it the gun. Now we die, spreading the flame. shouts, round or march right about, and those caissons go rolling along. And it's high, high, he in the field artillery, shouts to numbers loud and strong. For wherever you go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along. Grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace you will wave. You're the emblem of the land above, the home of the brave and the brave. Every heart beats true neath the red, white, and blue, and there's never a boast or brag. Should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
I now call upon Resident Phil Klossman, Navy veteran and commanding officer of the Westminster Veterans Corps, to share a few words on this special day and to also introduce our speaker to us.
Good morning. And welcome to the Veterans Corps. I want to speak to you again about this, our service as veterans. Our regular meetings that we hold here are held in the chapel at 10 o'clock on the first Friday of every month. And they provide the opportunity for us to get together with other vets, share our services and our experiences and ideas and things like that. At the present time, we have members who give talks, we have members that can contribute in some way like that, and we have current activities in which we try to get as many members as possible to participate. For other programs where we are not so successful in that, we show movies, and there again, we have a possible interest over a wide range of subjects. That's supposed to be our way in which we attract the interest of our veterans and give them a chance to remember their experiences and so on. Needless to say, the programs where we have actual participation by members, these are by far the more popular. But movies is another way to try to get some interest in things that have been done and have us think about our other experiences that we had before we came here to Westminster. When a veteran passes, the flag is flown at half-mast for 24 hours. Now I'm speaking about our speaker this morning is Tom Brown, a new resident at Westminster. Thomas Brown was born and raised near Cumber, Oklahoma. From 1959 through 63, he earned a BS in engineering physics at the University of Oklahoma. He served 5 years on active duty as a naval officer, followed by graduate study in physics at the University of Edinburgh. From 1969 through 76, he was at the Naval Weapons Center in China Lake, California, as an airborne fire control analyst. From 74 to 76, he earned a master's degree in nuclear engineering at the University of California at Berkeley. From 76 to 2003, he worked at Los Alamos Natural Lab, where he specialized in fast breeder reactors and reactor safety aspects. From 2003 to 2023, he retired to Bellingham and Redmond, Washington, coming to Westminster in 2023. It's now my pleasure to introduce Tom Brown, who will speak on reminiscence on board the USS Wilkinson DL-5. So, Mr. Brown.
disclaimer. Is that enough? Okay. I tried to talk Ruth out of having me do this, but I couldn't talk her out of it, okay? She gave that silent smile, okay, so you couldn't resist. So be careful of her persuasive abilities. When I talked to her about the presentation, I talked about my experiences on the ship I was on, the Wilkinson DL5. But since then, when I researched, I thought it expanded beyond my total time of naval service. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Okay, I'm new to this technology. I've never used a microphone before. I've never used PowerPoint before. My experience has been in front of a viewgrass machine with a whole bunch of slides. Okay? So anyway, this is an overview. I was at the NROTC at the University of Oklahoma for 4 years, in 59 to 63. Nuclear power training, that's a kind of a complicated situation. For basically a year and a half, I'll cover that a little more detail. And on the Wilkinson from 64 to 67, and that's where I concentrate most of the presentation on, because that's where I have the most memories from. And then I taught for a year, my last year at the Navy Electronics Officer School in Great Lakes, Illinois. Okay, let's see if I can. I had a Navy scholarship that basically paid my way through college. And I had 3 summer training cruises, which is typical anyone that's on Navy scholarship. The first one was on a USS Mulaney, which was early World War II destroyer. And you were expected to basically live the life of an enlisted man and maybe giving you appreciation for their hardships, particularly in the water room spaces, which in the tropics can be up to 130 degrees. So if you look at a water technician in those days, they come up for air, so to speak. They didn't have they had a very white complexion. They didn't have a suntan. Okay, 61, they were split the summer training cruises between aviation training at Corpus Christi and amphibious training at Coronado. My last summer training cruise was before my senior year, was based on a seaplane tender, and I'm not sure that's the name of it, USS Curitar. We didn't do anything except sit in San Diego Harbor and made one trip to Catalina at Avalon. That's all I remember from it. Okay, 2 clear memories from our Navy ROTC days. The first memory is from the Naval History course, which I considered a very good course. I understand since they watered it down. But the textbook was good and the instructor was good. By Billy Travik, if I pronounce it right. I was searching online. The advantage of searching online is you find a bunch of people, as time goes on, you find obituaries. And you would have found much about them otherwise. Anyway, it turned out that Billy was from Beeville, Texas. I had no idea at the time. And he got a rodeo scholarship to Texas A&M at Corpus Christi. And I didn't know there's such thing as a rodeo scholarship, but apparently there is. What do you expect from Texas A&M? I was a gym troop. But anyway, he was struck me as more of a kind of nerdy intellectual type. He was very hardworking. He worked hard to prepare this course. And he was an expert in mine operations, and probably responsible for all the mining of Haiphong Harbor outside Vietnam. And also, the obituary said he was an advisor to Henry Kissinger during the 1974 or whatever it was, in the early 70s peace talks to end the Vietnam War. So I'd say he's a pretty smart cookie, but I'm judging by the quality of the instruction that he gave us. Now, I don't remember the names of the other instructors, but he left me in that. The second memory is kind of a humorous one. I wasn't a particularly gung-ho person on the drill field, you know. At the time, I was the company my company. I was the executive officer, which means I marched in the back. I had nothing to do basically except march. But the company commander got a spot promotion to be the student commander for all armed forces today, and I got a spot promotion to become commander. You had to wear a sword. I never had a sword on me before, so they strapped it on me. And through 3.5 years of being a drill, I knew that when they gave a salute, you basically pointed in the upward direction. Okay? Didn't realize later you had to come more or less put it to your chin. Okay? But I got to the drill, got to the review, pointed the sword in the general direction, and no one made a remark. And when we come to be dismissed, there was a salute exchange ritual when you dismiss a company. So in somehow in the process, I lifted the sword, pointed in the air, it went into an arc and stuck in the ground on the chair. And so I had to reach over and pick that thing up. So that's kind of got it. Anyway. I thought I would mention about 3 graduates of the NROT student unit. One was Thomas Edward Brown. By the way, there's another one between, my name is Thomas Howard Brown, and Alan Kane, the second guy. The Navy does everything in alphabetical order, so I fit between those 2 guys. So Navy military tends to sign things by alphabetical order, so I was often on summer training cruises with them as well. Anyway, Thomas Edward Brown was killed, as it says on the geograph, while attacking a rock outside North Vietnam in April 1966. And he, that's what calls, they attacked his junk when they suspected him carrying Vietnamese, North Vietnamese weapons or supplies. So their targets are North Vietnam recovered the cloud, so they did this. So that's a consequence. He died instantly. The other guy that died was, well, there was officially he said he was died fighting a fire and destroyed, but instead he drowned when he drove his car off the end of the pier after leaving the officers club. His state probably intoxicated to some degree. But he was a young man, you know. He had a parking spot. Each ship usually had for officers had a parking spot at the pier. He's probably overconfident late at night. The other guy is Danny Glenn, who was shot down in North Vietnam in December '66. He spent 6.5 years in Hanoi Hilton before release. Kind of a poignant story here. He called his wife as soon as he got back to the States, and she told him she was going to divorce him. And I can elaborate that story because it was a 60 Minutes interview at some point with his wife some years earlier. Okay. My first period of service was kind of mixed. I had nuclear power training. I was waiting to go to nuclear power school for nearly over 6 months, 7 or 8 months. And I withdrew from, because I didn't like the 4-year active duty commitment. So it's kind of complicated. I won't go into all the details, but I managed to get out after 11 months of training now. Where I made the right decision in retrospect, I probably didn't, but that's just me at the time. I did mention, some people asked you, I did have an interview with Admiral Rickover, and I won't go into details on that, except his persona when you go in, he's this little man, he never wore a uniform. He has his hair part in the middle, I don't know where you've seen it, and he had long sleeve shirts on, he had garters on his sleeves, okay? And he never looked up from the table, he asked a few questions. And he got to the court, he had a problem in your academic record or something, I had a bad grade in one course, and that's the first thing he zipped on, but the interview lasted less than 5 minutes. So if anybody wants any more details, I'll talk to you some other time. But I'll give a lot of homage to Hyman Rickover, who made sure that the U.S. Navy nuclear power fleet was very safe, particularly compared to the Russian Navy. And I thought, and he contributed also, I think, to the good safety record in the United States nuclear power industry, as well as that in the free world. Of course, the exception is in the Soviet Union, which is a different attitude about safety. Okay, this is where I'll spend most of my time in the USS Wilkes and DL-5 from December of '64 to March of '67. We didn't deploy to the Western Pacific, we didn't deploy to the Mediterranean. Our primary mission was a test bed for a new type of sonar, which I list there. And as usual, most of the ships you had to maintain combat readiness underway training. The ship was home ported in Newport, Rhode Island, but spent long periods in Boston Naval Shipyard. Can you hear me now in the back?
If you moved your feet about 1 foot to the left, you'd be in front of the microphone.
Okay, this is new technology for me. Okay, we spent the ship was home ported in Newport, Rhode Island, but we spent long terms spent long periods in Boston Naval Shipyard. As a duty station, it was the most interesting memories. You live on. My duties were both electrical officer and main propulsion assistant. I found time at sea very tiring. With a rocking ship, and you had your regular job as well as one watch out of 3 or 4 on a standing watch, which I found tiring. Anyway, that's another story. And it was a very intimate relationship on a small ship. Most people do either by name, and you have lifelong friendships formed from these experiences, mainly because you're living and working with each other in a very close space. Okay, the trips at sea. Well, we went to the cold, as I said, the cold North Atlantic for training. We went to the Caribbean at various places. I listed them there. And the last time at sea was to show the flag cruise to Mar del Plata, Argentina. Okay, we participated in some ship review of the mostly I think Latin American navies. We were in Bermuda, New York City, and what I remember once is that we had a chance encounter with a British destroyer. You know, that you exchanged Navy protocol and talked to each other, and so the British captain invited the workmen's officers for cocktails, and I wasn't allowed. I was too junior, so that's it. Of course, everyone knows the U.S. Navy officially did not allow booze on board ships. And the last, I mentioned this before, we had a show the flag trip to Mar del Plata, Argentina, to participate in a ship review for American navies. Okay. I'll mention the commanding officers on board. I thought they were very good. They had different personalities. Clifford was more of he wasn't a very, I would say, outgoing person. He made decisions, didn't really consult with, he didn't really accept other people's opinions, but he made good decisions. The second one, which I perhaps related more, was Smith, Robert Smith. And you could discuss things with him, and he considered other people's point of views. He was an author. Later, he wrote short stories after he left the Navy, but he wrote frequently for the U.S. Naval Institute proceedings, and he won some gold medal winnings. But I suspect he didn't make admiral because essays were critical of Navy's procurement of ships. Okay, that's just an assessment on my part from someone that's 23 years old. So I'm not sure. Okay, there was also a young ensign on the ship who was waiting to go to Cambridge. He was a brilliant mathematician who later shortly left the ship and went to Cambridge, eventually got his PhD. But when he was on the ship, you couldn't tell, but he was kind of cut up, kind of a prankster, you know, I cut up with him. Unfortunately, he died in his early to mid-60s from leukemia. He was actually deputy chief of naval operations. Okay, there's 2 outstanding black crew members that I can call on the ship. The first one was an enlisted man from Jimmy Wingfield from Athens, Georgia. He was an electrician in my division, very sharp, well-liked by all, affable, and he made electrician second class very quickly. But somehow we got to Boston and discovered the the women in wine of the Roxbury section of Boston at the time. He went AWOL once, and then he went AWOL again permanently. Now, I don't quite understand. He had everything going for him. He could become an officer eventually. He was that sharp. In fact, when the Bureau of Ships would send someone to stage emergency conditions on the ship, they tripped the generator, and we wanted him on the switchboard, because you got to bring back the power slowly, okay, in a methodical way. The other black crew member was the onshore executive officer. He was from Massachusetts, and he was outstanding in my view, but his predecessor and successor were nincompoops in my view. Of a 23-year-old guy. Okay, these are just things of memory. We go to Guantanamo Bay, I mentioned that. Gitmo stands for Guantanamo Bay Naval, what does Gitmo stand for? Guantanamo Bay Naval Station. That's where ships went for underway training. And there was a lot of intense underway training during the week. We come back on the weekends, and the enlisted men were put on cattle cars, hauled to the enlisted men's club. And they were unlit cattle cars. And on their return, after being tanked up, as you imagine sailors are, the brawl sometimes occurred, and one did occur. And a promising young machinist in my division was busted to the seam apprentice after being accused of instigating a brawl, at least unfairly in my view again. Okay, while we were at Gitmo, there was a cruise ship that burned about 100 miles outside of Gitmo, and we got underway to help in the rescue. And I don't have any of my own photographs of that, but I did lift some from the web. But while I was impressed by we were on lashes come by, pulling by the ship and watching the sides of the ship burn and fall into the water. That left a lasting impression on me. And the photograph on the left is, I think, from it's firefighting trying to USS Raleigh trying to put out the fire. And the ship didn't sink, and later was hauled to Kingston, Jamaica, where the soul was trapped. Okay. Lost my time. Okay, the Show the Flag cruise for about 6 or 7 weeks in early 1967. We had planned stops in Barbados twice, Recife, Rio de Janeiro twice, and we had a equator crossing ceremony between Barbados and Recife. I had one notable experience in Barbados. We required to wear, since we're showing the flag, we were required to wear a uniform. I was picked up by an older English couple. I don't have any photographs of him. He was almost of the last century. I mean, almost early 19th century. And they gave me a tour of Barbados and hosted me dinner in their house. Their black lady cook was crying because, as my host explained, she felt out of repair a meal for her guests. And the next day I gave the couple a tour of the ship, which was a novelty for them. The baby ships didn't often stop in Barbados at the time. Here's the equator crossing ceremony, which I don't remember much about. I just remember if you hadn't crossed the equator before, you were a polyglot, and once you went to the ceremony, you become a shellback. So this happened to be some photographs I took, I think, after I'd been through the ceremony. I was a polyglot initially. And the most interesting one is, me, is the last one. That's the ship's navigator. He had an ample belly, I would say, and it was covered in grease. And you had to kiss that belly, or you would never become a shellback. So this guy in the second photograph there is ensures that you kiss the belly correctly and firmly. And then once you became past the initiation, this is King Neptune, who's actually the ship's executive officer. He put the sword over your head, and you were shellback at that point. I don't know where people, I have no recollection how people remember this ceremony, but they put an elaborate ceremony on. It's kind of a tradition that I wasn't aware of, or don't or remember. In Recife, Brazil, that was very poor at the time. We weren't allowed to go ashore because they considered we would be subjected to crime. But I did have some interesting observation on the pier. There was a boss, like a mafia boss, who was he was standing around, and every now and then he'd clap his hand, and a whole line of people would go up and perform tasks for him. There were prostitutes on the pool, on the pier. Women would also wait in laundry for hours for Brazilian sailors, which amazed me. So that's just some scenes that I took from there. And the right one, just a picture of the Brazilian Navy ships. The ship stopped twice in Rio, and the second time during the Carnival Festival. I did not recall taking any photographs during there, or maybe they're buried someplace in a box in our apartment. Again, we were required to wear a uniform ashore. I walked all over Rio in the daytime, didn't feel threatened. The economy, the Brazilian economy was very depressed with rampant policy and hyperinflation. We found it difficult to get water while we were in the pier. The ship couldn't make its own water with such a polluted harbor. You only made water when you're at sea. It was very polluted with floating pigs and cows. I remember that the sewage floating ditches through Copacabana Beach. I also remember during a reception, the Brazilian Navy officers had their wives. They held a reception, and their wives held tightly onto their arms and never left it in the reception. I wonder why they did that. Maybe I don't know how you work to a stereotype of British men, not Brazilian men. This is more of an amusement. Before the ship, I cautioned my sailors to take prophylaxis with them before we go ashore. The venereal disease was rampant in Latin American countries, particularly in Rio. But the ship's store forgot to order them. I had word for the supply officer. The other memorable experience is riding in a VW taxi on a multi-lane road along Copacabana Beach. 6 of us officers piled into a VW Beetle. Can you imagine that? And so there's this street was like it seemed like 4 or 5 lanes wide, and they were just full of VW Beetle taxis exclusively, it seemed like. So the taxis, as I said, went like a bat out of hell with all the other Beetles. And all of a sudden, all the taxis come to stop. All the drivers got out and started waving and yelling at each other for a few minutes. And we were kind of scared. We didn't want to, so we stayed in the taxi. And in a few minutes, the drivers got back in their taxis and resumed driving like bats out of hell. I don't have many pictures of Rio, just 2 of them. That's Copacabana Beach. There's a church, I think, in downtown Rio. There's some pictures, I think, going into the harbor. I think that's Sugarloaf Mountain, but I'm not completely sure. Mar del Plata, I don't have any pictures there. I have some in the bottom there, but basically, one to the left is a ship that participated in the pier. There's another, some Latin American ship coming next to us for some reason, and a clipper ship. But we did, the Argentine Navy did host a barbecue for us at a ranch, and we were at a table by ourselves. Each ship's officers were at a separate table. We couldn't speak Spanish, and they couldn't speak English, but after a few drinks, we were very friendly and showing pictures, photographs of our families and girlfriends. These days, they put about their cell phone numbers. Boston Naval Shipyard Naval Impressions. And, I'm not going to analyze this. Delay in getting repairs. Always a delay in getting repairs during overhaul. That's bureaucracy. The unions I think they're unionized workers, civil service workers, and every shipyard when it was. But overhaul was not only a 6-month period, but little was done for the first 4 or 5 months. The captain almost felt like he was forced to sign off on jobs that were incomplete. Now, there's a whole set of pressures involved in that issue. Another way that you get jobs done, and I had a first-class machine engraver there, I was astute at that. He was a Polish person from Manhattan, so you can imagine he knew how to use the system. So at that time, the Navy had supposedly had very good coffee. And you could take it to the shipyard workers and you could get jobs done. That's an old Navy expression called com shop. The other one, the most memorable experience probably is a ship was dragging anchor. The only time I thought the ship was in danger, it occurred in March of '67 before I was detached from the ship. The ship was en route to Boston, from Newport to Boston Naval Shipyard. I was acting chief engineer. We were delayed because of bad weather. We had main feed pump failures on en route. The captain made a decision not to enter Boston Harbor because of weather conditions. So we anchored at the edge of the channel to the harbor in the afternoon. And after anchoring, I somewhat arbitrarily kept both propulsion plants online. I wasn't going to quite arbitrary, meaning the ship had 2 propellers, okay? Which means you maneuver much easily. That turned out to be a fortunate decision. The following weekend, I was watch officer in the Combat Information Center. Radar fixes. Is that better or worse? Okay. Radar fixes were taken every 15 minutes. A fix is a position plotted on the map. Okay. Bridge watch could not take visual movement. Fix it because that's weather. 11:15 p.m. fix. It showed ship, did not show ship movement. Around 11:20, I noticed the distance to a South Island, which we did not use for taking fixes because it's a very low-lying island, and the radar image from there is considered not reliable. But I ignored it for that reason, and probably a mistake. I should have had them accused in the CIC to take another fix to see how we were doing. That's all in hindsight. And the normal 11:30 radar fix was 4 minutes late because the crew was changing at that time, you know. Because the crew changed and overlapped from about 11:30 to 11:45. So we was fixing. They showed that we were clearly going at a large speed to the southerly direction, either due to wind or current. We had about a 50-knot wind outside. And I ran to the bridge for the OOD, and the OOD initiated special sea and anchor detail, but without urgency. You know, I should have said, this is an emergency, you know, man the sea and anchor detail on the double. And sea and anchor detail is the people that actually are about to retrieve the anchor on the ship. I hurried down to main control. There was initially some confusion, but we carried on all commission down from the bridge. The 2 propellers most likely saved the ship and avoided much loss and loss. As you know, you can imagine, you have 2 propellers that can go in opposite direction. You can turn that ship much easier than with a single propeller. Afterwards, we moved to, and running aground in 50-knot winds would undoubtedly cause the ship to capsize. We were close to shallow water. We anchored not too from shallow water. After recovering anchor, ship moved to open sea until safety entered Boston Harbor. After we got to Boston Harbor, the captain was very grateful to the engineering department, in particular, for saving the ship. And he held a very, very frank discussion with all the ship officers where he admitted in the course of the discussion that he did not select a good anchoring position. It was the water was too rocky, so you need a little soil there to hold the ship. But again, we weren't expecting 50-knot winds or current as well. Okay, here's kind of an amusing interest. Shortly after going back to the anchor dragging incident, I was waking around in the middle of the night to report to the new executive officer on the bridge. He was the successor to Dallas. and found out the horn is operated by steam by pulling a cable in the pilot house. The XO said the horn was frozen and insisted that someone climb the ladder up to the horn and break off the ice. Okay? I objected because of the severe weather. There was some discussion, and I was going to send a man up there, so I ended up going myself. So I climbed the ladder. I remember climbing on the pole, climbing the ladder, with a low pole in my hand, and a vertical ladder up there. I think it's on the mast, but I'm not exactly sure. And while I'm up, the flashlight falls out of my pocket. It hits the XO in the nose, and bloodies his nose. Serves him right? Serves him right? And I don't really remember breaking the ice off. I think I remember breaking the ice off on the ship's horn. It's important. Ship's horn is very important. The radar, you only have radar for navigation at those points, and radar was not often reliable. So if you're in very overcast conditions, you have to ring the ship's horn periodically to warn other ships to avoid collision. Anyway. Meantime, the lead enlisted man for the horn system, I don't know when he come up, he was checking out the system and found the source of the problem. A simple problem. There's a turnbuckle in the pilot house on the cable that's used to pull it. It had come loose for some reason, or somebody did it inadvertently or what. It was a simple solution. Sometimes you need if you can, wait before you come to rash conclusions. Okay? My last year in the Navy, I taught at Lake County Officer School in Great Lakes, Illinois. I taught basic introductory college level physics to ex-enlisting men and from the Marine Corps and U.S. and the Navy, and also foreign officers of U.S. allies. The students were some of the most capable people I've ever encountered. Okay? I'm not sure I'll list all this. There's an expression in the Navy called once a sailor, always a sailor. It doesn't apply to all sailors who become officers, but they could be exemplary. Some of them could be exemplary on board in their performance, but when they go ashore, they revert to their sailor days, so to speak. And I remember one in Rio, we had our sonar officer. We had a hard time convincing him not to spend the night with the hostess in a strip club in Rio. I call it a high-class strip. For the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about the exploits of my cabin mates, except to mention first one. He bought liquor and Gitmo, which is cheap. It's illegal to have liquor on board ships. But he bought a whole bunch of liquor, put it in the bunk below in the drawer below his bunk. And he rattled all the time we were underway against all regulations, but nevertheless, it ended up, his marriage failed, and he volunteered to command a BT boat in Mekong Delta. In the interest of time, homosexuality on ships existed at that time. The armed forces did not address it. It took decades before they addressed it. So I'll just let you look at some of that in the research. There's tragedy in some of it. But I first mentioned the very bright junior officer was suddenly removed from some ship 15 minutes before getting underway. No one said why he was removed, but you can assume it's probably due to some homosexuality. It's taken years to the Navy to address that problem, decades, and I'm not sure how you address it in the spectrum of sexual inclinations these days. So I don't know, I have no idea how the Navy's dealing with it now. Okay, thank you very much. Hope it took too long.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We will now watch a brief video to commemorate Veterans Day.
And repeat after me. I say your name. Do solemnly swear. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States.
celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born with their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will guide our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Westminster resident and Air Force veteran Charles McEwen will now deliver the benediction.
Almighty God, we commend to your gracious care and keeping the men and women of our armed forces, both home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. Our way of life is not granted, but only exists because of the men and women who sacrificed so much to wear the uniform of our country. As we leave here today, may we never forget the tremendous sacrifice they have made and continue to make for our freedom.
The Red Dog Trio will close our program with their rendition of God Bless America.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night.
This concludes our Veterans Day program. Thank you all once again for being here this morning to honor our veterans. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America and our soldiers and veterans. May God continue to bless the United States of America. The Red Dog Trio will continue to sing now. Enjoy their music and refreshments. We request the veterans in the room to stay behind for a group photograph. Thank you all.